Welcome to Maker.io, the Gentleman Shorts, and in this episode we will learn how to get started with the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is a single board computer that can be thought of as a mix between a mainstream PC and a microcontroller. While many different types of Pi exist, the most common version, the Model B, is surprisingly powerful despite its small profile. Containing a quad-core ARM processor clocked in at 1.2 GHz, the Raspberry Pi Model B3 also has 1 GB of RAM, an Ethernet connection, USB, built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and a micro SD card slot for holding the operating system and user files. But unlike mainstream PCs, the Raspberry Pi also contains GPIO, which allows the Pi to be connected to external circuits and devices. Since the Pi is based on an ARM core processor, it cannot natively run x86-based operating systems, which include Windows, Mac OS, and most Linux distributions. Having said that, Windows have released a version of Windows 10 aimed for the IoT market called Windows IoT that can run on the Pi. Luckily for us though, there is a very popular Linux distro that has been made with the Raspberry Pi in mind called Raspbian OS. This operating system includes many useful programs including Office applications for writing documents and spreadsheets, a browser, and a whole range of programming IDEs so you can code the Pi in Java, C++, and Python. This, however, leaves us with the question, how do we install Raspbian? The answer is incredibly simple. All we need is a micro SD card, a PC running Windows 7 or later, an SD card reader, a copy of Raspbian, and Win32 disk imager. So let's now turn to our computer to see how we can get the Raspbian image flashed to an SD card. So the first thing we need to download is Win32 disk imager. And what this does is it allows us to take an image file and flash it to an SD card. So we'll go onto SourceForge. Once it loads, then we will go ahead and click download. So once it's downloaded, we can go ahead and run the installer by just simply double clicking the downloaded file. And then it will take us through various options. Dual screen, irritating. It will take us through different options. Obviously I agree, we're going to leave everything else as is, we're not going to touch anything because we don't want to affect anything. And then once it's installed, we're going to make sure that the program won't run because we need to download an image and we may need to configure the SD card. So we're just going to unselect those and click finish. So once we've installed Win32 disk imager, we're going to go and download the operating system image. So to do that, we're going to go into Google. So good old Google. And then we're going to look up the Raspberry Pi OS, which is called Raspbian or something. I'm not entirely too sure how you pronounce that, but we'll just go to this. One of the reasons why we're going to install Raspberry in Stretch is because once it's downloaded and put onto the SD card, there's no need for any installation. So you don't boot into an installation system where you have to select options for the operating system and things like keyboard interfaces and stuff. You don't need to do any of that. Once it's flashed to the SD card, it's ready to go. It's also only 1.8 GB in size, despite the fact that when it's extracted it becomes 4 point something. I'm not entirely sure, I think it's 4.1 or 4.2 GB. But the point is, it's probably the easiest option. So we click download with zip, and then once it's fully downloaded we can close that down. Now the next step at this point is to connect your SD card to Windows. Now, I have already installed Raspberry Pi on my SD card. And because of the way that the Raspbian OS installs onto an SD card, it kind of makes it a bit strange. It seems to split the SD card into multiple partitions. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to delete all the partitions on the SD card. Now the best way to do this is to load up the Windows icon and search for, I think it's called disk management. Yep, disk management. On the wrong window again. And when this loads, it shows all your different disks, and as you can see I've got a C drive, an E drive, an F drive, and partitions and stuff. Now disk 3 here is my SD card, and you can see it's been split into 2 different partitions. So we're going to delete all the partitions on that disk, and then the Windows disk imager will create all the partitions it needs. When you do this, be extremely careful, because you may end up deleting partitions that you don't want to delete on other drives. So please be incredibly careful when you do this. So you can right click these and click delete volume. Yep, I am absolutely sure. And we can do the same for boot H. Thank you. Delete that. And now I've got an SD card with 0 allocations and 0 partitions, and that's just wonderful for us. So we're gonna keep it as that, and then we're going to do a new simple volume. So we're going to click next, leave it as it is. You know it's going to be the maximum size anyway. Doesn't matter what drive letter you assign it. We're just going to stick with I, and then we're going to keep it as a FAT32 format. And you can call the volume label whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it Pi for now. I think it gets rewritten anyway. And you can use a quick format, it really doesn't matter. So once that's finished formatting, we can then load up Windows Disk Imager, and then we can flash the disk. Oh, there you go. So once the SD card has been formatted, we can go and use Win Disk Imager to flash the disk. So we close that down. So with the SD card prepared and ready to be flashed, we need to get our image file, which is found in the downloaded zip file of the operating system. Go away. And you can drag that onto the desktop or wherever you want to drag it to, doesn't really matter. And then once you've done that, like I've done here previously, you can go ahead and load up the disk imager, which is that. Now this blue icon here will open up a file dialog that allows you to select that file, the image file. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to select the device that we're writing to. In this case, it will be I. And then we just go and click write. Yes, I am sure. I wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't. So once that's done, we can pop it out of our SD card reader, put it straight into the Pi, and the Pi will boot up into Raspbian. With our flashed Raspbian image, all we have to do is insert the SD card into the Raspberry Pi. Mine just sort of, wow, never mind. Oh wow, it's really lost in there. Come on. Oh dear. This is what happens when you don't look when you're doing it. There we go, got it out. Right, let's do that one again. So with our flash Raspbian image, all we have to do is plug the SD card in, as well as a keyboard, a mouse, and a display. And probably a power cord too would be quite useful. And then just simply let it boot and watch the magic happen. So that's it. Our Raspberry Pi is ready to go, and we can now get straight into some Pi projects. Thank you for watching this episode of The Gentleman Shorts, and see you next time.